Echo TV is a co-production of Minnesota's Emergency and Community Health Outreach Collaborative of health, safety, ethnic, and nonprofit agencies, and TPT's Minnesota channel.
Hello and welcome to ECHO. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. ECHO stands for Emergency and Community Health Outreach, and our program is dedicated to providing health and safety information to a variety of languages, including this one, which is English. We have a very important topic this time called Helping Families Care for Older Adults, and that will involve the work of caregivers. We have a guest, but to learn more about this subject first, please watch this.
For most people, doing things for others is part of daily life. Sometimes adults or elders need a little help from family and friends to get along in life. They may need help with cooking meals, paying bills, and buying groceries. They may also need help with bathing, dressing, or taking medications. People who provide this help are sometimes called caregivers. We may not think of our family, friends, or neighbors as caregivers, but many of them are. They are giving others what they need to be healthy, safe, and happy. Family caregivers are people we know who provide care to adults or elders at no cost. They are husbands and wives, parents and children, relatives and friends. Many caregivers volunteer their help. Caregivers might also be paid to help. You may be a caregiver because at some time or other we all give a little help now and then. Being a caregiver is important and helpful, but it can also be difficult to care for people in need. You may find that caregiving makes you feel happy or special because of your good work, or you may feel angry, sad, or confused by the challenges of caregiving. All caregivers feel a variety of emotions at different times for different reasons. These feelings are normal. If you feel frustrated or too tired to give to others, it is time to find help for yourself. It's okay to ask for help from other family members, friends, or from professionals. By asking for help, you can be more helpful to those who need your care. Here are ways caregivers can help themselves while helping others. Eat nutritious foods and exercise daily. If you're feeling sick, you should see a doctor. Eat fruits and vegetables because they have vitamins for a healthy diet. It's also important to exercise. A 30-minute walk or bike ride every day helps keep your body in shape. In addition to good diet and exercise, talk to others when you feel sad or stressed. Some caregivers find it helpful to talk with someone they trust, or by going to spiritual leaders or counselors. Caregiving isn't easy work, and talking about it can help. It is not always easy to ask for help, but it is okay. After all, asking for help when you need it will benefit you and the person you care for. Help is available in your community. Contact the Senior Linkage Line at 1-800-333-2433 or your local or state Human Services Agency.
Welcome back to ECHO. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. We're talking about helping families care for older adults, or caregiving, and the work of caregivers and how they can help themselves. And with us to join us about this discussion this time is Lynn Sibuzar, a licensed social worker from a program called DARTS in Dakota County. Lynn, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You know, it's a broad topic, and in many ways all of us are caregivers. Is that true?
Sure. I think at many points in our lives we're taking care of other folks. We're parts of families, we have partners, we have spouses, we're good neighbors. So we're called upon to do lots of different things in our different relationships.
So why is it important that we talk about family caregiving and family caregivers?
I think with the population aging as quickly as we are, where the baby boomers are going to be becoming older, they're going to need some help from others to be able to do this. And it has become a new issue for our generation because we haven't had as many old people live to be this old, and with being old they have more chronic illnesses. We're the first generation to have this opportunity and pleasure to be able to care for our elders, but that means it's new challenges. It means that we might not have learned before how to do it well. We haven't had examples. So it's a challenge in that we haven't had people modeling the types of things we want our caregivers to do. So a lot of families are really struggling with a new opportunity and really feeling in the dark about it because they hadn't read books about it or had neighbors do it.
Sure. So let's start by defining it.
Okay.
Just exactly who are family caregivers and what kinds of activities do they do?
Family caregivers can be a spouse, it could be an adult child, it could be a grandchild caring for a grandparent. And that means that the person, that the relationship that they have with them, one of the persons probably has an illness of some sort where they might not be able to do everything for themselves as they once were. In many situations, it might be a wife caring for a husband who has had a stroke. So perhaps he's not able to get his clothing on anymore because he has a paralysis on one side. Or it might be a grandmother that has Alzheimer's disease that she's not able to manage her own checkbook any longer, and so her granddaughter would come over there and manage that for her.
And we don't always have to be relatives to be caregivers. Neighbors down the street may be in need and not have family nearby. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
So you don't have to be a relative to be a caregiver. Maybe you've been asked to be a caregiver. Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, in situations where we're now all spread out throughout the country, where some family members don't have anyone living nearby to an elder, they might ask a neighbor or someone from their faith community, could you check in on my mother while I'm out of town and need someone to check in and see how she's doing and let me know if she's having trouble. So you might get the opportunity to be asked.
And of course, it's a little bit challenging. I'm a caregiver with some aging parents in my family that I look in on, and some neighbors down the street as well. It's not always a paid position. It's actually a privilege, is it not?
It is in many situations. I think most people would like to go into it that way, where it feels a little bit of an honor to be able to be giving back to a person who's important in our lives. That's the way a lot of us go into it, and we hope to be able to continue that throughout the relationship. But sometimes that might come and go depending on how hard it is for us at our lives at that time.
And I know certainly there are some cultures where there's some expectations, or where you're expected to be the caregiver, whether you're the oldest child, or maybe in some families it's you happen to be the most skilled, or the most willing and the most available. But it can be challenging too if you have your own family that you're taking care of and you're also taking care of those in need. What are some of the challenges?
Well, I think you mentioned one in that time is of the essence, especially if you're raising children, you're working full-time, you're trying to help out an elderly parent who might need assistance several times during the week. You're wanting to get over there and get them nutritious meals, make sure that they're eating well, that they're getting to their doctor, they get sick and you have to take time off of work. So it's one of these things that turns into a part-time job, and we don't get paid for it and we don't get benefits in the recognized way. So it's hard to fit that into our already busy lives. And in addition to that, just the system that we have to support elders is rather complicated. Just looking at our medical professions, it's hard to know who to call and when to call them, so we're kind of going in the dark into trying to help them stay healthy. And then we sometimes neglect our own needs in the process.
So the good news is there are some resources where we can actually call on to help this balancing act between our own families and then caring for others as well. But before we talk about particular places where we can go to get some help, let's talk about some of the signs of where caregivers might actually need help themselves. How do I recognize if maybe me as a caregiver I might need some help?
Many caregivers will have other people suggested to them. They'll see that they're having difficulty maybe on their job, or they're not sleeping well, and their spouse or their partner might say, it seems like this is really eating you up. So it might be emotional stress that they're experiencing. Some caregivers have depression. Sometimes they feel a real lack of their religious or spiritual basis, so all of a sudden they're having a crisis in that realm of their life. It may be that they're experiencing high blood pressure, they're having their own health issues, having migraines, no time to enjoy life other than being a caregiver and all their other assigned roles. So it might be that the time, the emotional energy changes, just your outlook on life might change.
Things we need to do to help ourselves then as caregivers, what should we do?
I think one of the main things people can do is to be able to learn about the illness of the person, of what they have, so that you're able to be knowledgeable about what you might expect in the future, how you might interact with them, what are some signs and signals that things aren't going very well, and to be able to pay attention to yourself as the caregiver, that you're the important key to being able to keep this person as healthy as possible. So what do you need to do to be able to do that? Take care of your own physical needs, not ignoring your emotional needs, being able to get a support system going for yourself.
If you take care of yourself, you're better equipped to take care of other people. That just makes sense. And don't be afraid to ask for help, right?
Right.
Yeah, because there might be a little feeling of maybe guilt. I need to ask for help, but it's really okay, and there are many resources. Tell us about some of them.
So there are a lot of resources both for the elder and also for the caregiver. We've done a very nice job with trying to help recognize that if the family caregiver isn't there, we as a society are going to have a difficult time, because there's no way services like DARTS can go in and be able to step in those situations. So we have many different kinds of things to be able to help elders remain independent in their own homes, in their apartments. And even if their family caregivers are involved, we supplement to that to be able to help them out. And with family caregivers, we're trying to be able to hook them up to support networks like caregiver support groups, information systems so they know where to call and how to call, respite care, people to come in and give baths to an elder. We really feel it's important that caregivers be able to have some time away from the person that they're caring for as well, and provide them with some respite opportunities.
So you're building a support network for yourself as a caregiver, and you're building a support network for the elderly person, or we might add a disabled person or somebody who's ill who just happens to be younger.
Right.
And we're also counting on some resources. DARTS is one of them. You want to give us a description of what DARTS can do for Dakota County and Minnesota here?
Yeah, DARTS offers in-home and transportation help for families and for seniors. And there are a variety of agencies throughout the country that also offer that type of a service. So the Senior Linkage Line in the Minnesota area can provide information for both caregivers and care receivers, or for elders, about where to get Meals on Wheels help, or where to get snow shoveling assistance for my elder, or who could help with grocery shopping.
And if we don't have access to a senior linkage line or maybe a DARTS agency in our area, who else should we call?
Well, around the nation there's a program called Elder Care Locator, and that is a 1-800 number that can give people information throughout all the whole country in different states.
Might add local health departments and local human service agencies are also good resources to get help if you need help. So there's a variety. What if I don't speak English, or I'm an English-speaking person who knows a caregiver whose English isn't very good? How do you help those individuals?
Yeah. Well, they would need to connect with someone who may know the system a little bit better and speaks their language well. So to be able to coordinate with some of those culturally specific agencies would be the way that I would hope they would be able to interface with the different providers.
And these toll-free lines that you talked about, whether it's the senior linkage line here in Minnesota or this national line you referenced earlier, you can ask for an interpreter, right?
Correct. Right.
Okay, Lynn, you've been very helpful today. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us on
thank you.
That's Lynn Sibuzar, who is a licensed social worker from DARTS. We really appreciate her time today. We've talked about a lot of things about caregiving, but we want you to take away 3 key messages, and we'll start with our very first message about caregiving. Number 1, family caregivers are people we know who provide care to adults or to elders. Number 2, you don't have to care for others all on your own. Ask for help from family, friends, and professionals. And number 3, there is help available. One resource in Minnesota is called the Senior Linkage Line, or you can also try health and human service agencies in your area. Once again, my thanks to our guest from DARTS, and you have been watching the ECHO program. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. We have a variety of health and safety topics on the Emergency Community Health Outreach program. You can get more information about ECHO by going to our website, www.echominnesota.org. Thanks again for watching. I'm your host. Good day.
Echo TV is a co-production of Minnesota's Emergency and Community Health Outreach Collaborative of health, safety, ethnic, and nonprofit agencies, and TPT's Minnesota channel.